In the past, I've made a few videos about making patterns in wood. They've mainly been Japanese inspired with kumiko and yasagi, where I take plain shavings from a block that I've formed into a pattern. On one of those videos, somebody commented about trying Persian marquetry, and it's stuck in my mind ever since. I've tried researching it but found very little info, but I believe it's called Khatam Kari. The patterns are all made up from tiny triangles, which need to be fairly accurate. From those, and using your imagination, you can make a virtually limitless amount of patterns. That's done by using contrasting materials, including wood, metal, and bone. Here's a few test pieces I made to work out the process. Anyway, I'll attempt to make a few patterns, which I'm working out here, and how many pieces I'm going to need. I've had a good look through all the wood and I've decided to use black wattle and pine, which should give a pretty good contrast, and I'll start to prepare that, ready to make some triangle sticks. I'll square up some blanks and then take slices, which I'll then turn into the sticks ready to make the patterns. By the way, the triangles measure 3mm or 1/8 of an inch across the flats, which is on the larger side of what would have traditionally been used. I want the best contrast I can get, at least on one of the patterns, and as you can see, the all wood test piece on the right gets a bit muddy compared to the one on the left when it's wetted. Also, that was made from the lightest wood I have, which I don't have enough of to use. Traditionally, they would have used bone for more contrast, and as an alternative, I'm going to use white plastic. The bone would have been camel, and I believe that it had to soak for a few months to bleach it before use. It's a touch too thick, so as well as cutting the angle into two pieces, I'm also reducing the thickness at the same time. So here's all the materials ready to turn into sticks. There's two types of wood, and there's also plastic, aluminium and brass. The first thing I need to do is make a very simple jig to cut the sticks into the triangles. It's been a couple of years since I used this little bandsaw, and I thought it'd be ideal for this project. I could use the jig like this, but a shelf will make things easier and more accurate. I'm excited to tell you about Bondi Bond, a CA glue that I've been testing and working on that will be available soon. I use CA glue in just about every project, and this is an excellent product. If you're interested and you want to get hold of some, I'll put a link in the description to get on a wait list. If you're on that list, you'll get a saving with pre-launch prices. Anyway, let's cut some sticks. The first stick has a 90-degree angle on it, so that one gets discarded. I flip the board and make the next cut, which leaves an equilateral triangle stick with 60 degrees on each corner. They're still not quite usable straight off the bandsaw. They still need some refining. I'll cut a handful of them and then I'll show how to do that next. That's enough to get started with, and I'll cut the rest of them afterwards. All I need is a block of wood with a groove down the middle for the strips to sit in while I finish sizing them, and I could do that with a V-groove router bit, but all the ones I have are 90 degrees and I need 60 degrees. So instead I've prepped these two bits of wood, and I'm going to put a bevel on each of these two corners and then glue them together. The groove needs to be the correct depth for the final size strip, but it's easy enough to adjust that by planing the top of the block. It doesn't actually matter though quite what size it is, as the strips will all be the same size, and that's what really matters. To finish sizing them, I'll use a file, and I only need to do the two flats left from the bandsaw. The one smooth flat can be left alone. Any file will do, but this wide one works really well. I'm not quite sure where it came from, but I think somebody gave it to me to make a knife out of, as the end is broken off. Anyway, I didn't mention that you should make the block from hardwood. I think this is spotted gum, but either way, it is super dense, and that will prevent the block from wearing out too quickly. And also to help with that, I'm filing them down to a hair above the surface of the block. It doesn't take too long to do, and they come out pretty consistent. There's a few furry bits on the corners, so they need sanding off. They're easy enough to do, but as with any of these sort of projects, you do need patience, as this is only a minute amount compared to what I still have left to prepare. That's the first bunch ready to use. Now to cut the rest of them. That's all the wood and the plastic ones cut, and I've decided to refine these by using the drum sander and see how that goes. It's not actually a great deal faster, but it is easier, so I'll keep going with them. After a short while, I got a system going, which definitely helped. I put the stick into the block with the smooth face that doesn't need sanding in the same position every time, and then after putting it through, I don't need to find which face still needs sanding. I just rotate it away from me and sand the next face. While the second flat is being sanded, I get the next stick ready with the smooth face already in position to go into the block. I thought about making a multi-groove block and doing several at once, but I think that would have been too awkward to position and hold the sticks while they enter the roller. I think I would have ended up getting in a mess, where this system, which may be one at a time, was pretty slick and I got a good rhythm going. I thought it was going to take more than a day, maybe a day and a half, to file all the sticks using the drum sander, and this method took me about 4 hours, which I didn't think was too bad. It took a good couple of hours or so to sand all the corners. Here's one of the patterns I'll be making, but next I need to prepare the metal sticks. I'll start with the aluminium and I'll cut one on the wood cutting bandsaw just to show that that works. It's fine, but I'll cut the rest of them on my metal cutting bandsaw as it does a slightly better job. It's exactly the same procedure as the wooden ones, just much slower. Fortunately, I don't need anywhere near as many, as these are just highlights in the pattern. The aluminium ones went well, but the brass struggled and was taking far too long, so I decided to try another method. I welded up a simple block with a V-groove in from angle iron. It's just the same as the wooden one, and I'll hammer in brass rod to form the triangular sticks. The first thing I need to do is anneal them to make them softer so they conform to the shape of the V in the block. It's working pretty well. I'll need a second round of annealing and forming, and I'll also need straightening out. That's pretty good. I'll straighten them, then do final refining just like I did with the wood and plastic ones. That's all of them done, which was a lot of work, and somehow they actually look pretty nice as they are. I'll use PVA to glue them, and I don't have a definite plan, but I'll start by putting the glue in a bag and see how that goes. I'll put together this pattern first, 6 pine in the centre, 6 white ones to make a star or a flower, and the rest of them black wattle. I start with the centre pine sticks and then build up around it. I'm using plenty of glue. I don't want any dry spots. It's messy, but I don't mind that, and peeling dry glue off your hands is actually quite satisfying. I found a Khatam Kari video where they tied the bundles with cotton. At least I think that's what it was, so I'll try that. I found the cotton was breaking, so I went round it again with some wax thread. I didn't film the next one, but I got in a mess when putting on the outer layers. The pattern started misaligning, so I took the outside ones off and tied just the centre section and cleaned the glue off the remaining sticks to reuse. I've decided for the rest of the patterns I'll glue them up in stages. I tried the cotton again and it worked better. As there isn't as many sticks to pull together, I didn't need to wrap the cotton as tight and it didn't break. The cotton sands off, but I wouldn't say it was quick, and there has to be a better method. These will get glued together to make a larger block later on. Next I'll glue the outside pieces just like on the first one. That's much better. Working in stages is definitely the way to go. Also, you may notice the dental floss, which one of my supporters on Patreon reminded me of. I have used it before for something similar, and I have a feeling I've used it in a video, but I forgot all about it. Anyway, it's perfect, it's strong and doesn't break. It's also easy to get back off when the glue's set, as you'll see later in the video. After each stick, I go to my outside sink and clean my hands, ready to do the next one, and like I say, it really is messy. Next, I'll have a go at the pattern with the aluminium and the brass. I've started counting the sticks that I need for each glue up, just to make sure that I don't put an extra one in somehow and ruin the pattern. I'll make a note of what I've done so far. The first pattern's done. These ones are the centre of this pattern. I still need to do the outside, and next I'll do these ones. I did one off camera and glued it up in one go. It didn't work well. When I tied it, the corner triangles pulled in and shifted the other sticks around. Instead, I've made smaller blocks which tied together with no issues, and I'll glue those together into a bigger block when they've set. They were actually pretty quick to do. One thing I'm doing different is squeezing some of the glue off the sticks by pinching it with the side of the bag. There's still heaps of glue on there, but not as much, which makes things a touch cleaner. There's still another pattern to go, but first I'll remove the dental floss from all the ones that I've done so far. I clean up the outside with some filing and sanding and then glue them together into the final shapes. Now back to the aluminium and brass one to put the outside pieces on. And by the way, there's 42 pieces to make up the outside, just to give you an idea. These are all done with just the last pattern to go. I've already glued up the larger centre triangle, and I did that by making it in stages. I need 3 more larger triangles for the 3 corners, which I've also done off camera, and now I'm gluing on the rest of the outside pieces. This is how the hexagonal pieces were going to go together, but I've decided to do something different with the aluminium and brass one. I'll lay them like this, leaving a triangle, which I need to make. I've worked out that I need 12 triangles to every 6 hexagons, and these are the only sticks I have left, so I need to cut some more. One thing I found out here was these smaller glue-ups really didn't need much pressure when tying them, and these worked out to be the most accurate and consistent ones out of all of them, which I found out later on. That really is all of them done. Now I need to clean them up, ready to glue together. I'll trim up an end of all the sticks just to make sure that I have a full pattern on the one end, and then I'll cut them down to shorter length. To glue them together, I've made up these supports from scraps, which hopefully will help put even clamping pressure onto the blocks. I'm using Type Bond 3 as this will be very good for filling out any voids that may be lurking between the blocks. Before I can take slices off the block, I need to clean up one face and any excess glue on the outside of each block. They came out pretty good, but they're not perfect. This one here, it's a bit wavy. I think I could do a better job of that, and there's some voids in the side, but I'm going to tile it and just see how the tiles look, and hopefully it'll still be effective. This one here, that one came out pretty good. There's not a lot wrong with that one, and this one here needs the glue cleaning up on the outside. To slice off and make tiles, I'll use the bandsaw. This is where things differ from Yasagi that I showed at the start of the video. Those blocks were all face grain, where these are end grain. Even if it were possible to get a shaving off one of these blocks, it would just fall apart, so I need to take off 1mm slices. Here's the first view to take a look at how effective the pattern will be when it's tiled together. I think this one is going to be my favourite one. Anyway, I'll keep cutting them. That's all those ones done. It wasn't all perfect and there were a few failed ones. The blade kept moving around and it even came out of the guides a couple of times. I played around with the guides and the top wheel and got it a bit better, but it still wasn't 100% happy. These border ones lost a few pieces on the first cut, so to fix that I'll glue on some veneers either side, which I thought about doing anyway. It made me jump as well. I didn't have a spare fine tooth blade, so I went to plan B, which was my other bandsaw. I didn't use it on this project as it needs new guides. The ones that are on are the original ones from when I made the bandsaw, and that was about 8 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking. The saw was cutting way better. I should have just used this from the start. It cut cleaner, faster and more consistent, though it definitely does need new guides. I've cut a good amount. There's still some left on the blocks for a few more, but that will do for now. I'll quickly use a few of them on a box just to see how they look. I have a few boxes already made, so I'll use this one that's already mited and glued together. It's my daughter Jessie's birthday, and this will make a great little present. In fact, if you're watching this on the day it was released, it's her birthday today. These ones were always meant just for a border, but I thought they may look pretty good on the sides, stacked like this. I reckon the pattern will be more effective on a larger project, and I plan on making that in my next video. Take a guess at what you think that may be, or let me know what you'd use it on. I'm always happy to get ideas. While those are setting, I'll sand the edges of the top veneers so they're ready. They're slightly furry along the edges and only need a very light sand. That's ready to glue on. I just need to trim up the sides. I need to split the top from the box, and I'll use this method that I've shown before. It works great, and because the saw is super thin, hardly any of the pattern is lost. In fact, I'm cutting right between two of the very thin border strips. Next, I'll line the inside of the box and hide the plywood. It doesn't look quite right to me. I reckon the top needs a border. So with a sacrificial fence, I have the table saw blade sticking up ever so slightly the thickness of a veneer. I didn't have a heap of time to finish it for Jessie's birthday, but I did sand it to 600 grit and then applied Renaissance wax to finish it. I'll give Jess the box like this, but I will take it back off her and build up the finish a bit more. I'm sure she'll be happy with it. Actually, I can tell you that she loved it because it's her birthday today as I'm talking to you. The triangles on the side are a bit wonky, but I actually quite like it. You almost get the impression that each piece has been put in there individually. Anyway, it was a super fun project. I seem to say that a lot, but making wooden patterns is always fun. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.